From interim to permanent, is it really that easy being Superintendent Green? Area voters go to the polls, we dissect the school board elections and why voters and independents overwhelmingly reject a tax to support more police officers. The Sea Life Aquarium finally opens, plus a year after leaving office, we look at why there are no plans to yet honour former Mayor Mark Fankhauser. You mean there's no spare building or bridge that can be named after him? Also this week, evicted, Occupy KC. And the latest company caught up in the bi-state border battle, why Teva is heading for Overland Park. Hello, I'm Nick Haynes. Great to have you with us again on the program that goes beyond the soundbite and takes you behind the headlines, making news in Kansas City. You know, it was events in New Orleans which captured probably more attention than any other issue in the metro this week as KU reached the finals of the men's NCAA basketball championship, losing ultimately to Kentucky, an emotional loss for many. One of the top headlines certainly this week in this place we call home. With a look at some of the other week's top headlines, though, Eric Wesson, senior reporter at the Kansas City Call newspaper, Dana Wright, already getting emotional, from News Radio 98.1 FM KMBZ. She is radioactive weekday afternoons from 2 to 6. From 41 Action News, chief political reporter Chris Hernandez. And from the Kansas City Star, political analyst, reporter, blogger, and columnist Dave Helling. Now, we start this week in the Kansas City, Missouri School District, where Dr. Stephen Green officially loses the word interim from his title. He is officially this week the new permanent superintendent of Kansas City schools. The board approving a two-year contract, which will see him make $250,000 a year. The board, though, opted not to do a national search. Why not, Eric?
Well, he's familiar with the transformation plan, and they need to look stable for the state and for people in the community to gain support. So they brought him in. He's familiar with it rather than go outside, bring somebody else in with a new plan that they would have to implement. So I believe that they did it just because he was familiar with that plan, and people kind of know who he is.
But no other local candidates of any kind, just him.
No, I think a national search would have just been a waste of time and money and thrown things into turmoil, and you didn't need that.
People are so mistrustful, as you know, Nick, right now, of that entire system, and after what happened with Dr. John Covington kind of leaving in the middle of the night, if you will. Dr. Green is a known commodity, did very well with the Kauffman Scholars Program. I think it was the easy choice, and I think he owns a home here. It was the safe choice. Who knows what's going to happen down the road? He's a likable guy. Whether or not he is the guy as we move forward, that's yet to be seen. There have been, 40 of them in the last however many years.
Well, the other reality is he may be the last school superintendent ever in the Kansas City, Missouri School District. I mean, I think one of the key messages, Nick, of the election and this decision is the extraordinary lack of enthusiasm among patrons of that district for voting for school board members or really concerned about the governance structure at all. I think the chances that the state will step in have risen dramatically, and so the idea that you could go nationally, go out nationally to try and find someone to take a job that might be gone in 6 months, as Chris and others have suggested, it's probably wasn't going to happen.
There was some talk of the person that's in charge of curriculum as wanting the job and applying for it, and being shunned to the side for him. But one of the waivers that he had was the fact that he doesn't actually live in the Kansas City area. And that was an issue with a lot of people that are not for him.
He lives in Beza, which is in Kansas.
Exactly,
Yes.
and they waived it so that he could live outside of Kansas City limits. With the urban core and with the leadership there or the lack thereof, there's going to always be a division. I don't think that there would be anybody that could come in that the board would agree with and the community both. You're either going to get the board to agree with someone and the community not like them, or the community like someone and the board not like them. I think he's just coasting along through. He has this problem with ACE. That's very decisive, and he's coming into the community and the district that right now is not only the state turmoil, but locally is divisive. You have a group, the Urban Summit group, they're going down to Jeff City begging the state to take over the district now, immediately. And it's just, I wouldn't want the job. I don't think $250,000 is enough money.
That was just one of the stories coming out of the school district this week, because this week marked local election day in cities across our metro. Voters were picking candidates for Kansas City, Missouri School Board. One big-time name lost his seat. Arthur Benson was ousted by the head of the Big Brothers Big Sisters organization, John Heil. What do we read into that, Chris?
Well, I got the impression that among the voters there might be just a little bit of Benson fatigue, because one of the candidate forums that I moderated, it was clear that the crowd was not really liking Arthur all that much. And I think it's for a couple of reasons, perhaps fatigue, but also you recall when Covington left and there was that whole what's going on here thing, and he sort of threw Eric Leonard West under the bus. But what he was doing while he's campaigning was every time he responded to a question, he was supporting and promoting Eric Leonard West, in effect trying to ride West's coattails back into office, because he knew that he had some issues with the people who would be voting on Tuesday.
Now, this is the only... Sorry, go on, Eric.
Benson has not really been warm and fuzzy and embracing the community, in addition to what Chris said, but the DSEG program. A lot of people say Benson made millions of dollars off of that program, and he's one of the reasons why the district is in turmoil constantly. So it wasn't a situation where I think he was surprised or anybody should be shocked, but people just haven't been warm and fuzzy with him. And the issue with Covington, and there were some other things that were done there with the back and forth with Eric West as the president and not the president and so forth. So he's always had at least two.
There were 4 seats being decided on Tuesday. It is now Friday when we tape this program. Why is it that's the only result that we know? Why don't we know any of the other results?
Because it takes a while to count, particularly in the current system. It takes a while to count write-in votes and to verify them, to make sure that the people for whom the votes are cast are actually the same people that have filed to run as write-in candidates. It will take a while. Of course, the great implication, Nick, is that it took write-in candidates to fill these seats. State legislators are not ignorant of that fact, and when they look at the returns, they're not only going to judge who got elected, but how they got elected. Again, that's why I suggest that the governance structure, which was on thin ice before Election Day, is now, that ice has turned paper thin in some ways.
At 1 o'clock Tuesday, I had gone to 9 different polling places, and in total was 43 people had voted in all 9 places. And when you look at Benson's race, you know, that corridor, it's a lot of registered voters there. They have good voter turnout numbers. Less than 1,000 people decided who was going to take that seat. So people are very, very disengaged from the Kansas City, Missouri public school system, and I think people are waiting. They know the state's going to take it over, but when they're going to take it over. And some of it I fought the state with as well.
Well, there's always been this talk, well, the state couldn't get its act together. The legislature couldn't get their act together. Now, though, it looks like they can. The Missouri House has already passed a bill that would permit a state takeover. Now, the Senate looks like it actually has the votes that would allow a state takeover of the school district, and that would go to the governor's desk, Chris.
Yeah, what you're talking about is this. There was this provision originally that there would be a 2-year waiting period for any type of takeover. This legislation that is moving would basically take away that 2-year waiting period, and it looks as if that's going to go through, and that's a pretty key provision, because it's the one thing that seems to have been able to work its way through without getting other things attached to it, and that's been the big problem with getting anything passed out of the legislatures. Other things keep getting attached to different bills. So if that goes through, that could have a pretty great impact.
Also in this week's election, no love for police at the ballot box in the city of Independence. Voters there, by a massive 72%, say no to a tax hike that would have funded 42 additional positions that boosters argued would reduce crime in the metro's 5th largest city. Now, we're told people love firefighters, they love police, particularly at the ballot box. So why, with such a huge margin, would people say no to that?
Well, what's interesting here is I think this is just a strong anti-tax vote in Independence, and you look at what's been happening there with their TIF payments for the Bass Pro development, where the tenants didn't materialize, and the city has been putting out millions of dollars over the last couple of years to support that project. And that has not gone over well with the voters and independents. So they don't want to have to put out even more money
It's
at
not
this
just
point.
I mean, that's clearly a large part of it, anti-tax, but it's also a huge vote of no confidence in the administration of independents and some concern about the way government is running there. I believe this is the second time they've rejected a police tax. They're trying to send a message. And it isn't just about police. It's about the way the city of Independence is being run. Bass Pro a part of it, but other problems there. And I do think that suggests some political problems for the mayor and other people in the city of Independence.
Eric.
And people in the Independence neighborhoods pay a high personal property tax anyway. So now you're going to add an additional tax on that, and people in my neighborhood were like, I'm voting no because our taxes are already high enough as they are. And like he said, the confidence in the Independence Police Department is not very high unless you're close to Independence Mall or someplace like that, and especially if you're black driving through there, because they still have that driving while black problem in Independence that nobody wants to address.
5,000 sea creatures have a new home in Kansas City, including sharks and stingrays, as the new $15 million Sea Life Aquarium finally opens its doors today at Crown Center.
I'm really excited. It's going to be great for the area. It's fun already. It's just going to make it even better.
My kids are anticipating it greatly, and we can't wait.
There are 30 display tanks, including a massive ocean tank with a walk-through underwater tunnel where visitors are surrounded by fish and sharks. A Legoland Discovery Center is being built next door, but that won't open until April 29th. Dana, what does this new aquarium mean for Kansas City and Crown Center in your judgment?
As a mother of four, it means I'm going to Crown Center more often than I did.
Not today, though, because it'll probably be
there's no way I'm going today.
crowded.
I tried to get media passes. I couldn't even get a call back. I couldn't even get a call back from the PR people. That's how excited people are about this thing. You know what? I think what a great thing for Crown Center. Initially, when they talked about this development, I wanted this thing to go into Union Station. I wanted an aquarium to go into Union Station. However, with the Legoland exhibit coming in, we saw huge interest with the Lego Masters program. Thousands of kids going down there to watch that being built. The run-up to this thing has been huge. There's no way I'm going down there this weekend. I think it's going to be a zoo. But what a great revitalization for that area. Not that it was a dead area, but a great way to put some minds together and revitalize that area. Let's think, what is new that we can put in there that Kansas City does not have? You know, could have put it in the zoo, could have put it in Union Station. They put it in Crown Center. It's a great idea. I love it. Let's take the kids down. I'm going to do it.
I do think there's also a thought that it could increase tourism, not just for people from Kansas City
Absolutely.
going, but that whole the hotels. That whole corridor could be popular for family vacations during the summer. The real question, I think Dana hits on a real interesting question to me, which is what does Union Station then do to capitalize on this increased traffic? It could really be a real boost to that facility if they can find out a way to get some of those folks after they visit. And really not just Union Station, but the World War I Museum, that whole part, sort of western edge of Crown Center would be an important,
Chris,
important
to
thing.
pick up on what you're saying, Dave, I have talked to some of the folks down at Crown Center, and they definitely are working on these plans to sort of market that whole area together and to make sure that Union Station is bringing in the future exhibits that they can directly tie to all of that. And really, I don't think this has gotten quite the attention that it maybe perhaps deserves in terms of the tourism impact, because they are really thinking this is going to be big when they just look at the demographics and the numbers for regional tourism to bring people in for weekend trips, 3-4 day weekend trips from the surrounding area.
But we can't forget there is still the talk, of course, of having a bigger, in fact, destination aquarium at the former Mission Mall in Johnson County.
Oh, please.
Matt Campbell at the Star is working on this story.
Come on.
Isn't
the
that
field
still
of weeds that we've been looking at for 10 years, that spot?
But that would still be the major attraction there.
I will believe that when I see something other than a field of weeds.
I was just going to say that the Star is working on a story.
I've driven by that darn thing for 10 years.
Can I just say, the Star is working on
the story
as whether the area can support two aquaria.
Is that the plural? Is that the
plural
of aquarium?
I'm going Latin.
Say a word.
I'm going Latin. Well, the radio people don't really understand that Latin stuff. But, so we'll see. I'm not quite as
You're fancy-wancy, Dave.
I do my best. Well, I work for the newspaper now. I have to follow the rules of English.
Okay.
But my point is that there are people on the Kansas side who still believe that the area can support 2 aquariums and a bigger aquarium, and that it will be a different draw than it would be. As Dana suggests, perhaps the proof will be in the pudding.
I would also like to add that we had someone call in, speaking of tourism, from an outdoor, I'm trying to remember where, I think it was Washington. I don't know why they were listening to Radioactive, but they were, God love her. And she said that the Legoland exhibit, there are Legoland people that travel the country visiting Legoland exhibits, and these people are so excited to come to Kansas City to visit ours. She said it is a destination across the country. So to that end, Dave,
Yes.
with your aquaria,
Yes. Yes.
I think that is
Yes.
fabulous for this region because people will come here from all over.
Exactly, and it's a good marketing ploy. You can take the kids on Friday night or Saturday, go to Legoland. The next day, go to the aquarium. You have a hotel there. There are restaurants there. Parking is good. It's a great concept if they can figure out a way to market it.
Yes, thank you.
And then whatever's over at, is there anything at Union Station?
Titanic.
The Titanic is
Yes.
over there.
It's so good.
How many times have we seen that?
Yes. And as your host of the morning program on your station, Dana, said when he was talking about the history behind the Titanic, somebody tweeted that program and said, "Oh, Titanic was a real story?
It really happened?
It really happened? Yes. It
More
was
than
a
one
real
person
ship?
said that.
Okay.
Yes, it did.
So
Yeah.
the business border battle continues. And chalk up another win for Kansas as Teva Pharmaceuticals announces it's leaving its headquarters at I-435's and Holmes Road, along with its 400 employees, and moving to Overland Park. The company declined to disclose the amount of financial incentives it was offered to move to a new site next to Sprint on the corner of College Boulevard and Knoll Avenue. Teva is best known for producing drugs for multiple sclerosis and Parkinson's disease. Now, efforts were underway to try and get Teva to move to the former Bannister Mall site. Why did Teva eventually then choose to move to Kansas?
Well, you've got the PEAK program in Kansas, which is one of those incentives that gives you some direct money because it allows you to start to keep some of the payroll withholding tax. And that's one of the biggest incentives that has been drawing the businesses from the Missouri side to the Kansas side. I talked with Mayor James the other day, and he's pretty upset about that. And trying to push regional cooperation, and his idea was even that maybe we should just pool money and then work to bring people from other states like Texas or Illinois or somewhere rather than just going back and forth across the state line, because that's, again, lamenting the fact that there's no new net economic activity for the metro. It's just Kansas gets to say it has more jobs and Missouri has to say it has fewer.
I talked with Governor Nixon about this subject this week. He was in town before going to South America on a trade mission, Brazil. And he makes the same point that Chris is, that we need to address this regionally, and ultimately the solution is for everyone in the Kansas City area to realize we're all in this together. The problem is Sam Brownback doesn't want to play that game. I mean, the people, he's trying to grow jobs in Kansas for the income it brings to the state of Kansas, and doesn't really care whether Jay Nixon is worried about it or not. So it's a situation in which regional cooperation sounds good in theory, but you can't get the politicians on board. And so my guess is you're going to see more stories like this rather than fewer going forward.
And one more point. I drove this the other day. It's 4.1 miles. It's 6 minutes. No one is going to move their house to a different state because their headquarters has moved 4 miles. I mean, it's not going to help in that way.
But the company says it isn't just about the financial incentives. There was more to it than that. And some people say it is about a quality of life that they're going to get with all the shops. And you've got entertainment options, and you've got restaurants there in that Overland Park area. And how does Missouri then compete with that?
And it's a blighted area, the Bannister Mall area. Even if you have a development plan, how many years would it take you to get it up and running with the council not focusing on that area? And then you have a different strand of leadership there. In the Overland Park area, there's malls, there's stores, there's less crime in that area. So that was a good move on their part. We have to, in Kansas City area, we have to come up with a plan to get people into our city. And that's what the city council
But the other thing is that Kansas City faces enormous challenges in terms of which area to focus on to do that kind of thing. I mean, is it Bannister Mall? Is it along Prospect? Is it Troost? Is it north of the river? Kansas doesn't really face those problems. Johnson County doesn't face those problems. Plus, it has a relatively robust office construction industry, so it's easy to throw up high-quality space. My guess is that the folks at Teva took a look at the Bannister Mall site and thought of how many hurdles it would have to overcome to do what it wants to do relatively easy on the Kansas side.
Kansas City police and city workers evicted members of the Occupy Kansas City movement from Penn Valley Park over the weekend. Protesters have been parked on a patch of grass near the Liberty Memorial in the Federal Reserve Building for 6 months. Occupy KC claims to be the longest continuous public occupation in the country. So why did the city force them to move now after all this time? Anyone?
They want the park back.
For what reason? I mean, good Lord. Why can't they just let them stay there a little longer?
Well, like, isn't Rockfest coming up pretty soon? You know, I mean, they do have events during the summer that use up the park, and I think they wanted to get them out of the way before that all starts.
I think the Parks Department tried very hard to avoid any direct confrontation like took place in other states with the Occupy people. They were sort of out of the way. I mean, you could make a case that they're not disrupting anything and could have stayed, but I do think at some point they said, look, we're not really set up for tents and for other life-supporting activities forever. Time has come to move on.
And I think their message has kind of gotten lost. It's kind of faded away because there's no new outcomes or there's no new drive, so it's kind of faded out. And so that made it less visible for people to do anything. Like day one, they probably couldn't have done that.
Now, Mitt Romney does have elevators being constructed as we speak for his cars, so that is keeping this in the news.
But one of our producers...
But they're not capitalizing on that down at the Occupy camp. I mean, people really are kind of forgetting about Occupy KC. This has not been in the news at all.
One of our producers, though, wanted us to play some tape from earlier in last year when you and Steve Kraske, Dave Helling, said they wouldn't last through the winter. So they did do better. I wasn't going to play that tape.
Except we had no idea that there would be no winter.
Okay, all right, fine. But I spared you that. But they said they're not going to go away. They're looking for a new space. And one of the suggestions right now, there's speculation, they may move to either Ilas Davis Park downtown or green space next to the new Kaufman Center for the Performing Arts. Now, how will that go down with arts patrons, Dana Wright? You know, they both love freedom of expression.
Hey, it's a free country, right? They should go to Lenexa and move in next to Dave's house. Or next to one of the aquariums.
I can't imagine that the city would be as patient with them if they are at either of those two other locations. I mean, when they're at Penn Valley Park, you forgot they were there unless you happen to drive through the middle of the park.
Let's be, you know, in sort of a serious vein, my guess is the city might be more patient than you would expect because there are First Amendment issues involved on public space. And if you start saying, well, we're going to let you stay in a place where you can't be seen but won't let you stay in a place that's more visible, that does... I think Kansas City has handled this remarkably well, by the way, without, again, the sort of confrontation that you've seen in other major cities. And Occupy does have a point to make. They have a right to make it under the First Amendment. So there may be more patience there than you might imagine.
How many were there when this was all said and done? When the police said, let's pack it up? We're talking
40 or 50,
40 maybe people.
Half a dozen tents, maybe a few more things.
But several thousand virtual Occupy cases who didn't have to go through the inconvenience of actually being there. I want to talk about another topic here because it's been about a year since Mark Funkhauser left his job as Kansas City's mayor. But the city council still hasn't named anything for him, as the Kansas City Star's top reporter Dave Helling points out in a column last week. Ilas Davis and Kay Barnes have nice plazas, Emmanuel Cleaver a boulevard. Roe Bartle has a hall, Charlie Wheeler an airport. Are there plans about to name something after Funkhauser?
Well, you know, I think it was on this show about a year ago, and I think it might have even been Dana who said they ought to build something, a steel sculpture out of the steel plates that used to be on the streets. Did you say that? I think you did.
I wish I had. That's awesome.
Someone said that, and I thought that was a good
There are no plans. I talked with Lynn Horsley down at City Hall. There's no discussion of doing this. As I suggested in my column, you know, everybody's saying goodbye to Mark Funkhauser, but it does seem a little churlish not to name something. I mean, you can find a something
bench,
that, you know.
something.
I think the difference here is that all these other mayors had 2 successful terms.
Right.
He was thrown out after
well,
one term.
still.
I think in the future, once people get beyond the immediate impact of him leaving,
He's also not here.
perhaps something will happen.
I ran into him. I
Yes.
physically bumped into him in Washington, D.C. I ran into him at Union Station in Washington, D.C. And I looked up and I go, Mayor? And he goes, Dana? It was the weirdest thing ever. He's living in Washington.
Yes.
So I think people not only, he's just not here. He's living and working in Washington.
The other thing is, it's
People
hard
have kind of moved on.
It's hard to know what's appropriate, but I think eventually there will be some sort of recognition of his
And
time.
Eric?
Park bench or a stoplight or something.
He was a great auditor. He was a
Yeah,
great
well,
auditor as well. We cannot
But
forget his
there
service to the
there
city.
aren't any plans though, Chris.
I haven't heard of anything, no. I think it's going to take some time. You got to heal some wounds. You got to decide what's appropriate. I mean, eventually there's going to be something, I would
He
think.
wrote a column for Governing a couple of weeks ago applauding Chris Kobach, the Secretary of State in Kansas. As you know, he's a pretty controversial figure. As soon as that dies down, we can probably move forward.
The Green Duck can give him a bench or something, a table in there. He was in the Green Duck a lot.
All righty, that's our Week in Review. Our thanks to our news reviewers from News Radio 98.1 FM, KMBZ, Dana Wright, 2 to 6 weekday afternoons on Radioactive with Dana and Parks, and Dave Helling with a team of hundreds weekdays and weekends at the Kansas City Star. With the 41 Action News team, whenever news breaks, Chris Hernandez, and keeping it real morning, noon and night from the Call newspaper, Eric Wesson. I'm Nick Haynes. From all of us here at KCPT, thanks for spending part of your weekend with us.